The entertainment world was rocked when recording artist Aaliyah Dana Houghton was lost after her plane crashed shortly after takeoff in the Bahamas on August 25, 2001. 6 people, including the Rock the Boat singer, perished instantly, while 2 others later succumbed to their injuries in a hospital. In the years since the tragedy, surprising new details about the 22-year-old have gradually emerged. Here's what we didn't learn about Aaliyah until after her fateful final voyage. Suspicious skies. As fans mourned, U.S. and Bahamian authorities began investigating what could have caused the twin-engine Cessna to crash on a Saturday night in seemingly perfect weather. Aaliyah and her crew were originally supposed to leave the following day, but they were reportedly in a hurry to get back to Miami, so they hastily chartered the doomed flight after shooting the music video for Rock the Boat. Before piling into the small plane, an argument reportedly broke out between her entourage and the pilot, Luis Morales. Morales supposedly thought the plane was overloaded with 9 people, their luggage and camera and sound equipment, and shortly after takeoff, the plane crashed, taking the lives of everyone on board. But a heavy load may be just one of the reasons the plane went down. Following the incident, more details about Morales emerged.
It turns out the pilot of that plane, Luis Morales III, was recently charged for cocaine possession and may not have been authorized to fly that plane.
As a result of the revelations, Aaliyah's parents, Diane and Michael Houghton, sued the plane's operator, owners, and the flight broker. In 2003, the suit was settled for an undisclosed amount. Afraid to fly. As if her fate wasn't heartbreaking enough, it was later revealed that Aaliyah was terrified of small planes, and she was even said to be hesitant to board the tiny plane from the Bahamas to Miami. According to Newsweek, a friend who accompanied the singer to the airport said Aaliyah was expecting a larger aircraft for the flight, and she was uneasy when she noticed the small plane. The company producing her music video reportedly offered to charter a larger private jet for Aaliyah and her entourage, but the singer declined because she was, quote, anxious to get home to her boyfriend and enjoy her last free weekend before beginning a rigorous fall schedule. Secret projects. During the height of Aaliyah's career, social media wasn't the force that it is today. This made it a bit harder to learn about a celeb's personal life, and Aaliyah was exceedingly reserved. In fact, because the songstress was rarely seen without a dark pair of sunglasses covering her eyes, rumors emerged that she had a lazy eye or a glass eye. Even when she ditched the shades, she frequently covered one eye with a perfectly coiffed bang. Of course, those stories weren't true, but her secretive nature meant that most fans didn't know she had a funny bone until after she was gone. Aaliyah befriended Kidada Jones, the daughter of music mogul Quincy Jones, at a Tommy Hilfiger fashion show in 1993. The pals reportedly loved to act silly when they were together. In a 2011 interview with The Fader, Joan said Aaliyah once prank called her father and pretended to be pop star Christina Aguilera, explaining, she was asking my dad to do something on her record, and she was just singing, and he totally believed it was Aguilera. But Jones and Aaliyah were more than just best friends. They were becoming business partners too. Aaliyah was known for her impeccable sense of style. She could effortlessly wear a pair of baggy jeans and a crop top one day, and a Roberto Cavalli dress the next. Jones told Fader that she and Aaliyah had been developing a girls' clothing line called Dolly Pop. Right when she passed, we were getting ready to sign our contracts for that. We were making plans for this brand that was going to be girly and cute and have Japanese inspiration. Considering Aaliyah's ability to make the best dressed list at any occasion, there's no telling how successful that line would have been. Love life. Aaliyah worked hard to keep her love life under wraps, but that didn't stop her romances from making big headlines. Vibe magazine blew the lid off her secret marriage in 1994 to her then mentor R. Kelly. Aaliyah was just 15 years old when they wed, and Kelly was 27. She reportedly lied about her age on the marriage license, claiming she was 18, so their union was eventually annulled. Towards the end of her life, Aaliyah had sparked a relationship with Dame Dash, the co-founder of Rockefeller Records. Supposedly, both he and his former business partner Jay-Z had their eyes on Aaliyah. Dash said,
so I was going at it, but Jay was going at it.
But the reason it didn't cost the men their partnership was that Aaliyah was able to keep a cordial relationship with Carter even after putting him in the friend zone.
Aaliyah was the type of girl that would give you a shot. You know what I mean? Like, she didn't care what people thought or whatever, so she'll date you, but and be your friend.
Clearly, there were no hard feelings because Jay-Z led a touching tribute to the singer at a concert in Detroit 1 year after her crash. Meanwhile, 10 years after her passing, Dash was still coping with his loss and told Billboard magazine, "My heart was broken. Nothing prepares you for that." Though Dash and Aaliyah spent a lot of time apart working on individual projects, they were apparently planning a future together. He told MTV News, "As soon as she had time, we were getting married. She was the one. She was definitely the one for me." On top of all of these bits of posthumous news, perhaps the most surprising thing we've learned about Aaliyah after her departure is just how poetic her words about her work really were.
In the end, it's all worth it because it really makes me happy. and I wouldn't trade it for anything else in the world.
Hollywood obituaries are always tinged with sadness, but few have been as uniquely devastating to the public as Heath Ledger's. At just 28 years old, Ledger, who passed away in January 2008, had the world at his fingertips. He had a new daughter with actress Michelle Williams, and he was at the top of his career, turning in celebrated performances in films like Brokeback Mountain and The Dark Knight.
Heath Ledger has left us an original and enduring legacy.
In the years following Ledger's passing, many aspects of his life have been brought to public light, as his friends and family try to help fans understand his personal life. Here's what we've learned about the talented Australian actor who left us far too soon. A confusing relationship. Ledger's body was initially discovered by a massage therapist who had come to his apartment for a routine visit. Unable to wake him, she used his cell phone to make 3 calls to Mary-Kate Olsen instead of the police. According to CNN, Olsen then called for a security guard to be sent to the apartment before authorities were involved. The confusing timeline had people wondering whether the famed Olsen twins somehow had a hand in his overdose. According to People, the two had been quietly dating for months, but Olsen's reps insisted she had not provided him the medications he was taking. However, she apparently refused to speak with federal investigating authorities without the promise of an immunity deal for herself, so confusion about Olsen continued to linger for years. Help from A-list friends. At the time of his passing, Ledger had not yet finished filming the movie The Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus, so actors Johnny Depp, Colin Farrell, and Jude Law all stepped in to perform the rest of his role and donated their paychecks to his daughter. Director Terry Gilliam told the Daily Mail that they were among a large group of actors who had volunteered to complete the film, including Tom Cruise, but that it was their personal relationships with Ledger that informed the director's decision. Gilliam said, "We agreed it would work better if they did it their own way, rather than copy Heath's. Johnny was to bring out the charming side of the character's nature. Colin was to develop the dark side, and Jude to fit in between the two." The film was ultimately finished and released nearly 2 years after Ledger's passing.
Voila. Voila.
A quiet but difficult battle. Following their split, Williams and Ledger kept their personal disputes private, but according to those who saw what was going on behind the scenes, their breakup was much more brutal than the public knew. As Gilliam told Vanity Fair, the two grew distant during the award season chaos that followed their shared nominations for Brokeback Mountain. Gilliam said, "That was the moment when it changed, when he realized, we perceive the world differently. He didn't care about things like those awards. He was trying to be decent and graceful, give her whatever she wanted, the house, thing. But once it started going south, it went very quickly." One of the biggest points of contention was the matter of custody rights to his then 2-year-old daughter Matilda. The separation, it seems, took a toll on him. As Ledger's dialect coach told People, he missed his girl, he missed his family, he missed his little girl. He desperately wanted to see her and hold her and play with her. He was desperately unhappy, desperately sad. An opportunity nearly missed. In 2015, 10 years after the release of Brokeback Mountain, screenwriter Diana Ossana revealed that Ledger was almost denied his career-changing role of Ennis Del Mar because it was given to another actor. Although she didn't name names, rumor has it that Mark Wahlberg was originally offered the role. Ossana explained in an interview with SiriusXM's Michelangelo Signorelli, "Another actor had committed and we had suggested Heath, but the studio didn't feel he was macho enough. I thought that was a rather odd comment, but we just sort of stuck with it. And when that actor backed out, and he did after 3 months, I called Heath's agent." And the rest was movie history.
This is one of the biggest heartthrobs on earth, taking on that character. That's an artist.
Revealing footage. 9 years after his tragic loss, footage was combined from a library of home videos Ledger had filmed for his daughter Matilda. The documentary, I Am Heath Ledger, premiered at 2017's Tribeca Film Festival and was made with the assistance of his family and friends.
He was always a director. Acting was just a way to get there.
Before the film was made, Ledger's longtime friend Matt Amato reportedly reached out to Michelle Williams to ensure her support, and she said, "We should do something now. Matilda is curious." An inspiration for new music. One of the many revelations that came from I Am Heath Ledger's release was the actor's deep connection with the musical arts. Reports at the time said he had plans to create a new record label called Masses Music in 2007 and hired singer-songwriter Ben Harper to write a lullaby that he could sing to Matilda upon her birth.
Heath was the most alive human And if it wasn't on the edge, it didn't interest him.
As revealed in the doc, Amato was making a music video for Bon Iver's Justin Vernon when the news of his best friend's passing came out, and the devastation caused the video shoot to turn into a 3-day wake. Vernon would later pen the 2011 song Perth in Ledger's honor, telling Exclaim that he was moved by Amato's emotional reaction to Ledger's loss. Not so serious. Ledger's work as the Joker in Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight was universally well received.
And the Oscar goes to Heath Ledger in The Dark Knight.
But Ledger's sister Kate recently fought persistent rumors that it was this role that drove the star to consume prescription medications, telling reporters at the 2017 Tribeca Film Festival, every report was coming out that he was depressed and that the role was taking this toll on him. And we're going, honestly, it was the absolute opposite. It couldn't be more wrong. He had an amazing sense of humor, and I guess maybe only his family and friends knew that, but he was having fun. He wasn't depressed about the Joker.
This is like taking it to the next level. Like, you're going to be nominated for this, I'm telling you right now. And he just smiled.
Rumors of his depression continued to swirl after it was reported that Ledger isolated himself in his London hotel room for a month to mentally prepare for the role. He even kept a Joker journal filled with vexing in-character anecdotes, like, inside, he's laughing red and black till there's nothing left to laugh, until, almost tenderly, he turns inside out through his mouth.
He would certainly immerse himself in the upcoming character. And I think this was just a whole new level.
The most chilling insert of the diary was the last one, which simply read, bye-bye.
Even as a supporting actor, he will steal the whole show. That's the power of Heath Ledger.
When Princess Diana died in a horrific car crash in Paris in August 1997, Britain went into mourning. But the beloved royal's death has since unleashed many revelations about her and those she was closest to. These are the shocking things we learned about Princess Diana after her death. In 2004, NBC aired the first installment of their highly controversial 2-part documentary on the late Princess of Wales, which was released under the title Princess Diana: The Secret Tapes. The docu-series was comprised of footage taken at Princess Diana's Kensington Palace home between 1992 and 1993 by her friend Peter Setlin, whom the princess had decided to confide in. She spoke of many things in their recorded interview sessions, but the beloved royal began by telling her former voice coach that she suffered a great deal in childhood, stating, "It was a very unhappy childhood. My parents were busy sorting themselves out. I remember seeing my father slap my mother across the face and I was crying on the floor. Mummy was crying an awful lot." The BBC also got its hands on the tapes and reportedly plans to release its own documentary on the princess at the time, but bosses at the broadcasting company decided to axe it over fears it would upset her ex-husband, Prince Charles. Princess Diana's former royal protection officer, Ken Worf, became one of her closest confidants during his time by her side. Though after he left the role weeks before her tragic death in Paris, he decided to go ahead with his own personal memoirs in 2002. Diana, Closely Guarded Secret, blew the lid on a number of stories that had previously been dismissed as nothing but rumours, the most sensational of all being Princess Diana's alleged affair with British Army officer James Hewitt.
In July 1986, Diana met James Hewitt at a party. She arranged for Hewitt to give her riding lessons, and more.
Worf would reportedly accompany the princess to her secret meetings with Hewitt, who she took as her lover after she discovered that her then-husband Prince Charles was seeing his then-mistress Camilla Parker Bowles again. In his book, Worf wrote, "Shattered by her husband's betrayal, the princess was ready for an affair. Hewitt, a natural womanizer, gave her the attention and affection she relished, and then the passion she yearned for." In his memoir, Diana, Closely Guarded Secret, Ken Worf made it perfectly clear what he thought of ladies' man James Hewitt, recalling the first time he took Princess Diana to meet him at his mother's isolated cottage in the Devon countryside, which he referred to as the couple's love nest. Hewitt reportedly came out to greet them with an over-enthusiastic welcome, though Diana's bodyguard found his over-the-top behaviour laughable, recalling, "It seemed absurd and confirmed my preconceived ideas. Not all army officers were public school buffoons, but many seemed to be doing an excellent impersonation." That enthusiasm would eventually wane, however, and Hewitt later decided to confide in Worf when the secretive relationship became too much for him to handle. He said to Worf, "Ken, I need some time off. The princess can be so demanding." His chance for a break came when he was promoted to Major and took a 2-year posting in Germany, reportedly leaving Diana heartbroken and threatening to approach his commanding officer. According to Worf, Hewitt was aghast. To say the household cavalry would have frowned on any officer cuckolding the future king is a massive understatement. He's probably not wrong. Relationship pressure was something that Princess Diana was all too familiar with, having suffered from its side effects long before she even walked down the aisle with the Prince of Wales. Diana developed an eating disorder early on in her relationship with Charles, whose reported flippant comments about her weight started a chain of events that would affect his wife and marriage for years to come. In her recorded remarks, Diana recounted these events, stating, "Bulimia started the week after we got engaged. Charles said, 'You're getting a bit chubby,' and that triggered something off. The first time I made myself sick, I was so thrilled. It relieved me of tension." She went on to reveal that she was making herself throw up her food multiple times a day, but it all came to a head when she fainted during an event in Canada.
They all blamed the failure of the marriage on the bulimia, and that's taken some time to get them to think differently.
The press referred to it as, quote, "the wedding of the century," after thousands upon thousands packed the streets of London to celebrate the new princess. The one person who didn't get swept up in the fairy tale royal wedding day, though, was Princess Diana herself. After getting cold feet, she revealed in those secret tapes that she'd confided in her sisters, "I said, I can't marry him, I can't do this. This is absolutely unbelievable." And they were wonderful and said, "Well, bad luck, Dutch. Your face is on the tea towel now, so you're too late to chicken out." It was later revealed that Prince Charles reportedly shared similar doubts about their compatibility. However, the royal couple made their way to the world-famous St. Paul's Cathedral, where 750 million people watched Diana walk down the aisle. While the bride was a vision of royal beauty, inside, the princess-to-be felt like, as she put it, a, quote, "lamb to the slaughter." Diana later recounted, "My wedding day. I think that was the worst day of my life." As the 90s reached their midway point, it started becoming clear that this royal marriage had faced major trouble in paradise, the extent of which wasn't fully known until Princess Diana's secret tapes were released. Not only was the princess severely depressed about the state of her failing marriage, at times her relationship with Prince Charles caused her to try and take her own life. She said of the period,
I was so depressed and I was trying to cut my wrist with razor blades.
Queen Elizabeth II even witnessed one of Diana's attempts firsthand during her pregnancy with Prince William following an argument with Charles. Diana stated, "I was crying my eyes out. He said I was crying wolf. I'm not going to listen, he said. You're always doing this to me. I'm going riding now. So I threw myself down the stairs. The Queen comes out, absolutely horrified, shaking. She was so frightened. When he came back, it was just dismissal, total dismissal. He just carried on out of the door." If you or anyone you know is having suicidal thoughts, please call or chat online with the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-TALK. That's 1-800-273-8255. According to unnamed sources who spoke with the Daily Mail, the revelations inside Ken Worf's memoirs have made him a sworn enemy to the royal family. In fact, the establishment sought to strip him of his royal honours in the wake of his explosive book. Perhaps one of the most shocking chapters, considering how Princess Diana met her eventual fate, claimed that the princess would encourage her protector to exceed the speed limit while driving her home from the Hewitt family cottage. This speeding almost landed them in a huge PR disaster. As Worf put it, after these clandestine meetings, Diana would be exhilarated. She often insisted on driving much too fast, which is how we came to be stopped by a patrol car when we'd been doing around 100 miles per hour. "Ken, you'll have to sort this out," said the princess as we pulled over, but I told her firmly that it wasn't my job to cover up offences, particularly as I had warned her repeatedly about her speed. Diana reportedly took it upon herself to resolve the situation, using her status and good looks to influence the policeman. Worf recalled that the traffic officer got the shock of his life when he realised who he'd stopped. Diana, with her eyes at their most doe-like and her head tilted to one side, was let off with a polite reprimand. Through no fault of his own, Prince Harry's birth caused his mother heartache, as Ken Worf found out firsthand. Princess Diana's biggest regret about her affair with James Hewitt was that it brought the legitimacy of her second son into question, with many assuming that the child was not Prince Charles's doing when he popped out with a fiery head of red hair, remarkably similar in colour to Hewitt's. Charles certainly noticed.
First comment was, oh God, it's a boy. Second comment, oh, and he's even got red hair.
Despite being generally thick-skinned when it came to the media, the rumours about Harry reportedly drove Princess Diana to tears on many occasions, meaning Worf avoided the topic like the plague where possible. The one time he did discuss the stories with the princess, she supposedly told him that it was nothing but a malicious lie, stating, "I don't know how my husband and I did have Harry, because by then he had gone back to his lady, but one thing that is certain is that we did." While Worf is no longer on the Windsor Christmas card list, he has always backed the princess up on this one, claiming that it is, quote, mathematically wrong for Hewitt to be the father, as he didn't meet Diana until 1986, 2 years after Harry was born. After her divorce from Prince Charles was finalised in 1996, Princess Diana reportedly became convinced that there was a plot afoot to have her killed. During the inquest into her death, her lawyer, Lord Mission, testified that the princess had heard from, quote, reliable sources that she would be killed in a staged accident. It later transpired that those sources were a series of mediums, psychics, and astrologists, one of whom reportedly told Diana about a premonition she had in which she saw the brakes of a black Mercedes being tampered with, adding that she, quote, felt a connection with France. The paranoid princess reportedly went as far as writing a letter to friend Simone Simmons, a holistic healer by trade. Diana claimed, quote, the brakes of my car have been tampered with, following a minor fender bender she had in London. A mechanic later confirmed it was simply down to normal wear and tear, though Sally Morgan, Diana's most trusted psychic, still maintains there was something fishy about her death. According to Morgan, the truth will come out. Diana would definitely want the facts to be revealed. She'd be torn between it all being dragged up again and upsetting her boys, but William and Harry are men now, so they can handle it. I think they want the truth too, but I think it'll be 200 years before it comes out. It'll be Prince George's grandchildren who'll allow the truth to be printed. Princess Diana is said to have clashed with Princess Michael of Kent, the wife of Queen Elizabeth II's cousin, Prince Michael of Kent, on numerous occasions. The people that knew her best claim Diana often took issue with Princess Michael's rigid approach to royal life. According to Ken Worf, the free-spirited princess had a less than flattering nickname for her stuffy elder. According to Worf, Diana used to refer to her as the U-boat commander. It was really common knowledge. The two princesses were once neighbours at Kensington Palace. They would act friendly toward one another whenever they crossed paths, but Worf testified, quote, it was all a bit of a facade. And Worf wasn't the only royal insider to come forward about this unspoken feud. Diana's former personal trainer claimed she used to enjoy embarrassing Princess Michael by greeting her while wearing skimpy gym outfits. According to Carol Ann Brown, Diana had a huge sense of humour. She hated any kind of stuffiness, and she thought Princess Michael liked to be very regal. In 2005, Princess Michael's true feelings on Diana came out in a scandalous fashion. The unwitting princess told notorious undercover journalist Mazhar Fake Sheikh Mahmoud that Diana was, quote, nasty and bitter in a recorded sting. Princess Michael also claimed that the People's Princess was just a, quote, womb for Charles. Ouch.
Iconic comedian and TV star Joan Rivers was an open book on stage, but there were still many things we learned about the legend after her death. Here are some strange facts that you may not have known about Joan Rivers. Joan's daughter, Melissa Rivers, released a touching memoir following her mom's death, explaining in the press release that she, quote, wanted to write a book that would make my mother laugh. In The Book of Joan, Tales of Mirth, Mischief, and Manipulation, Melissa reveals the pain and anger she felt over losing her mother, and the negligence lawsuit she filed against Yorkville Endoscopy, where Rivers suffered complications during a routine procedure to examine her throat.
And I got into the bed with her and held her.
She later passed away in the hospital, and the suit was settled in 2016. But Melissa also shares a multitude of sweet, poignant, and downright hilarious anecdotes, including the time Rivers and Matt Lauer duked it out over an Elmo doll. According to Melissa, Joan once appeared with Lauer on a Today segment about the hottest impossible-to-get kids' toys of the year. That year, it was the Tickle Me Elmo doll, which had sold out immediately and apparently could not be found anywhere in the New York City area, except there was the one in the studio, and Joan was determined to snag it for her grandson. The problem was, Lauer also had his eye on the prize. Melissa wrote, Matt and Mom both fell to the ground, wrestling each other to get to the doll. Melissa then claimed Joan eventually faked a damaged hip to trick a concerned Lauer into helping her. Then, in Melissa's words, with ninja-like reflexes, Joan grabbed the doll and ran. Joan was open about her luxurious tastes, once joking, "People say that money is not the key to happiness, but I always figured if you have enough money, you can have a key made." At the time of her passing, Joan was worth an estimated $150 million and left behind a wealth of over-the-top treasures. Following her death, Christie's auction house held an auction, the private collection of Joan Rivers, which earned nearly $2.5 million. Melissa told People magazine, "She was always adamant that even your finest things should be used and loved and not just in the bank vault or storage." Rivers didn't just keep her luxurious tastes to herself. She was also known as being, quote, "the most marvelous hostess," who shared her lavish apartment's precious possessions with her circle of friends. Marjorie Stern told Christie's she kept an eye on the table to make sure people were laughing and participating in the conversation. She loved to set a formal table, which included finger bowls, of course. I never missed an opportunity to tell her they were ridiculous in today's world. Joan was a trailblazer, forging a hugely successful career in the mostly male-dominated comedy world. Not surprisingly, she was hailed by many as a groundbreaking feminist icon, with Time claiming, "Rivers blazed trails for other women in the comedic industry by bringing taboo topics like abortion to light on stage. Without her, there would be no Sarah Silverman or Chelsea Handler or Amy Schumer." But Rivers often came under fire from feminists for her scathing critique of women's weight, appearance, and sexuality. HuffPost shot down Time's feminist icon label, claiming, "Time glosses over the fact that her humor was frequently predicated on tearing women down, and viciously so. Let's not forget that her comedy shtick was rooted in deeply misogynistic ideas about women." HuffPost went on to list a few of Rivers' caustic jibes about women like Elizabeth Taylor and Kristen Stewart. 4 years after her mother's death, Melissa told V magazine that Joan never considered herself a feminist, and added she wanted to do everything she wanted to do and wanted a man to open a car door for her. She thought men should treat women great. She still wanted to be treated like a lady. Joan was incredibly open about the plastic surgery procedures she underwent during her life. In her usual self-deprecating manner, Rivers often made her ever-changing appearance the butt of her jokes. The Hollywood Reporter published some of her best plastic surgery quips, including, "I saw what's going on under my chin. I don't want to be the one the president has to pardon on Thanksgiving."
Look at that. You can make a purse. No, yeah.
Another joke they listed in which she poked fun at herself was, "I've had so much plastic surgery that when I die, they will donate my body to Tupperware." Joan never went public with the exact number of procedures she had, though, keeping the public guessing. Melissa somewhat confusingly broke the secret in her memoir, simultaneously claiming her mom, quote, "didn't have as much work as people think she had," while also putting the number of procedures at a whopping 365 times. Melissa admitted that Joan's obsession with plastic surgery stemmed from her lifelong insecurity about her looks, but that towards the time she died, she had finally felt like she looked good. Melissa wrote, "I find comfort in knowing that all the plastic surgery jokes she made about herself and that were made by others at the expense of herself, she did what she needed to do to feel better. On her 80th birthday, she said to me, 'You know what? For 80, I don't look so bad.'" Joan had more than her fair share of quirks and unusual ways of doing things. That was apparent when it came to Rivers' unconventional use of milk dud boxes. In Melissa's book, she shares that her mom would stash her cash in emptied-out milk dud boxes whenever she jetted off somewhere. Melissa explained, "They're the same size as paper money, so in case someone rifled through her purse, they'd overlook it." It was a secret Melissa learned following her mother's passing, after she had cleared out Joan's apartment to auction off her belongings and prepare prepare the property for sale. She spoke with People magazine about her mother's unusual piggy banks, with the outlet noting that Melissa knew Joan, quote, liked to stash away fun money around her house, mostly in 1s and 5s. So she had been careful to rifle through books and magazines to check for hidden cash, but she hadn't looked in candy boxes lying around the apartment before trashing them. Joan had a close but sometimes rocky relationship with her only child, Melissa. Despite how much she loved her daughter, Joan had somewhat unusual mothering skills at times. According to The Telegraph, she once joked, "Don't tell your kids you had an easy birth, or they won't respect you. For years, I used to wake up my daughter and say, 'Melissa, you ripped me to shreds. Now go back to sleep.'" Despite Joan's unconventional outlook on life, Melissa told Caroline Stanbury on her Dear Media Divorce Not Dead podcast that she had a traditional childhood before things took a less conventional turn in adulthood. Melissa admitted, "So I think because of that very traditional upbringing, after I got married, it caught me by surprise when my mom was like, 'You need to be much sluttier.' She was like, 'You need to put it out there.'" She also says that when she was a baby, Joan took some flagrant risks while driving. Melissa wrote in her memoir, "She told me once, 'Missy, they didn't have car seats when you were born, and you survived just fine. I used to lay you on the floor of the passenger side. I would have held you on my lap, but I didn't want to wrinkle my blouse." Joan was an outrageous, motor-mouthed comedian, but at the same time, she was a devoted grandma who loved to do needlepoint. While the Jerusalem Post captured the dichotomy of Rivers in a 2006 article, Melissa expanded on her mom's unexpected hobby in a chapter of her memoir titled Pillow Talk. Speaking about her mom's nightly needlepoint, she wrote, "It calmed her down. She'd get in bed, turn the TV on to Investigation Discovery to watch some dark tale about a gruesome murder, pull out her needles, and start sewing." Melissa also shared some of the slogans Rivers sewed on pillows, including, "Don't expect praise without envy until you're dead," and "Fashion knows no pain." In another part of her memoir, Melissa admitted that Joan was a terrible speller who would cheat at crosswords by squeezing misspelled words into spaces. She explained, "No puzzle went unfinished. When I would point out that there was a mistake, she'd say, 'Don't bother me with the details. It works for me.'" In a poignant aside, Melissa revealed she included a crossword puzzle book and Joan's favorite pens in her coffin. Joan was a renowned storyteller, both on and off the stage. However, her stories weren't always totally factual, or sometimes based on any truth at all. In the biography Last Girl Before Freeway, The Life, Loves, Losses, and Liberation of Joan Rivers, author Leslie Bennett cites examples of the comedian playing fast and loose with the truth. Speaking with Vogue, the author recalled one of Rivers's most surprising fibs, that she was not, in fact, a member of the Greek Honor Society, Phi Beta Kappa. Bennett claimed Joan didn't graduate with any honors, adding that Rivers's untruths were, quote, "all about image building, correcting what nature had failed to give you." New York Eater debunked another whopper Joan told during a Howard Stern interview about a date dying during a romantic dinner at Le Cirque.
It was kind of a new romance, and he died.
Oh, man. Had he already paid the bill?
No. It was terrible.
An official statement from the New York restaurant insists no one has died at Le Cirque. The creme brulees to die for, but that's about it. Melissa also spilled about her mom's love of tall tales in a piece she wrote for the Daily Mail, admitting, "She was rude, vain, embarrassing, an incorrigible liar, and hilariously funny. Most of my mother's fibs were simply embellishments to make a story she was telling better or more interesting." Melissa added that when it came to actually having to lie, that strangely enough, Joan was, quote, "terrible at it." To onlookers, Joan and Melissa appeared to be joined at the hip. The mother-daughter duo shared an extraordinarily close personal and working relationship, starring together in reality TV shows and co-hosting Fashion Police. However, it wasn't always smooth sailing between the two. In fact, Melissa told Today that there were some huge fights over the years. Melissa also admitted to directing her anger at her mom after her father took his own life in 1987. In an interview with ABC News chief medical correspondent Dr. Jennifer Ashton for the podcast Life After Suicide, Melissa shared, "I was really mad at my mom, really mad, and we've spoken very openly about that." The Daily News reports that things eventually became so bad between the two that they didn't speak for a whole year before finally making the decision to reconnect. Melissa admitted, "It took time to get back on stable footing. It wasn't like we just woke up one day and went, okay, we're fine again. It takes time to get there."
She didn't have to tell me she loved me. I knew.
In her memoir, Melissa wrote, "In hindsight, I think my mom hated more people than she liked. She had a fake flight manifest labeled Death Flight 5000, which had the names of all the people she hoped would be on board when the plane flew nose first into a mountain. But in reality, the comedian had a multitude of close friendships with people worldwide." Melissa appeared on Today 2 years after her mother's passing to discuss her settlement of the negligence lawsuit she filed against the hospital her mother died in. She shared, "Closure is an overused word. It was time to put it behind us and move forward. One of the ways we're moving forward is I'm going to push for some sort of legislature." Melissa also shared that she'd sent her mom's ashes to various friends all around the globe, adding, "She's in England and Scotland and Mexico and Wyoming and California, and stores and restaurants and studios. She is in places nobody would expect her to be."
Following her untimely passing, this talented musician has been honored by friends, family members, and music industry cohorts who continue to share obscure facts and previously unknown information about her. From the good to the bad, here are some of the things we learned about Amy Winehouse after her death. On July 3, 2015, the Asif Kapadia-directed documentary Amy debuted in New York and Los Angeles. The highly anticipated film included intimate videos from the singer's life, including a clip of her serenading one of her closest friends on her birthday. In the video, a 14-year-old Winehouse effortlessly belted out "Happy Birthday," proving that even at such a young age, she was full of extraordinary talent. Even the late legendary film critic Roger Ebert said it was if the young Winehouse had been possessed by the spirit of an ancient R&B diva. Kapadia was also impressed by the countless hours of footage he reviewed for the documentary. In an interview with Rolling Stone magazine, he stated, "What I learned was what a creative, intelligent, funny human being she was. I didn't know any of that. I don't know if anyone did." Despite the film being a critical success, not everyone was excited to see the documentary come to life. The Winehouse family refused to give their approval because they believed the singer's father was portrayed as an enabler to her drug and alcohol abuse.
She had a family with her all the time. They accuse me and my family not being there. It's preposterous.
Despite their displeasure with the final edit, the film, including the scene of Winehouse proving she was a vocal powerhouse at such a young age, will always be cherished by her fans. In January 2004, a journalist by the name of John Mars conducted an interview with Winehouse, who was relatively unknown at the time. Her album Frank had just been released in the UK, and she wasn't expected to be a huge breakout star, so the editor didn't even bother to publish the interview at that time. Following her death, it was released in its entirety by the Huffington Post, and the world learned about some other artists Winehouse was fond of in the music industry. When the English singer was asked which of her American counterparts she enjoyed the most, she gave a nod to Pink by saying, "She's wicked because she talks her mouth off and doesn't give a shit." Pink unknowingly lived up to Winehouse's description of her when she gave her 2 cents about Winehouse's personal issues. In a 2008 interview with the Daily Mirror, Pink said, "I would like to see Amy get well. She's great. It's all very Britney Spears, though I've seen people recover from worse." In the previously unpublished interview shared by HuffPost, another surprising thing that came out was Winehouse's love of hip-hop. When asked who her idols were while she was growing up, she mentioned that she so badly wanted to be in the 80s female rap group Salt and Peppa. She and her childhood friend Juliet Ashby even started their own group called Sweet and Sour when Winehouse was 9. While reliving the memory, Winehouse said, "We had some funny songs. We had 2 little boys to be our little who would dance for us. We wrote a song called Boys, Who Needs Them? And in the middle of the song, they'd come on and list girls' names while we dissed them." Winehouse went on to say that she and Ashby performed the songs at school assemblies, complete with a dance sequence that included a bunch of grinding. Oh, and in case you were wondering, in Sweet and Sour, Winehouse was sour. In 2006, Winehouse released her final studio album called Back to Black. The album included 12 tracks, including the song Me and Mr. Jones. Prior to her death, there was speculation about which mystery man Winehouse was referring to in the song. Many assumed she had penned the track for rapper Nasir Nas Jones, and some of her words in the song actually matched up with Jones' real life. When Winehouse belted out Mr. Destiny 9 and 14, she was referencing Jones' daughter Destiny and September 14th, which happens to be Winehouse and Jones' shared birth dates. Following her death, Jones confirmed the rumor by stating that Winehouse's producer had spilled the beans to him prior to the track's release. In an interview with XXL magazine, Jones said, "I don't really remember if her producer, who was really close to her, who introduced us, if he told me about it or not. I don't remember right now. But I heard a lot about it before I even heard the song." The two had actually sparked a friendship after realizing they had more in common than just their birthdays. Skype sessions later turned into an in-person meeting, and the two artists were working on a song that Winehouse Winehouse never got the chance to record. They were even planning a joint birthday party that same year before her untimely death, according to Uproxx.
We got love for Amy forever. That's our sister. Love her.
Not too many artists experience immediate success straight out the gate. As for Winehouse, her 2003 debut album Frank was certified 3 times platinum as of 2017, according to BPI. Her follow-up album, the 2006 monster hit Back to Black, avalanched her previous success by going 12 times platinum. With her newfound fame came a legion of international fans who fell in love with her raspy and bluesy voice. But after her death, the world learned that Winehouse wasn't entirely interested in being a star. When the official trailer to the Amy documentary was released, fans were greeted by Winehouse's voice ominously predicting her own downfall. When speaking about her budding career, she said she didn't want to be, quote, anything other than a musician. When asked by an interviewer how big of a star she thought she'd become, she responded,
I don't think I'm going to be at all famous. I don't think I could handle it.
Winehouse admitted that while she sometimes wished her music could be heard on a larger scale, fame simply wasn't for her. Winehouse collaborated with a host of top-notch entertainers, including Prince on the track Love is a Losing Game and mega producer Quincy Jones on It's My Party. There are a host of celebrities who are difficult to work with, but apparently Winehouse wasn't one of them. 6 years after her death, her bassist Dale Davis gave an interview to Music Radar to talk about his time performing alongside the iconic singer. He recognized that she was struggling with addiction, and he admitted it was hard to perform on stage with her for the last 2 or 3 years of her life. Despite the turmoil caused by Winehouse's battle with her inner demons, Davis called her an amazing talent and very easy to work with. It's hard to stand by and watch as someone you care about deals with addiction. While Winehouse's friends decided to give her tough love, rapper Sean Jay-Z Carter thought confronting Winehouse face-to-face was the best solution. While speaking to Rap Radar podcast, the rapper described the first time he and Beyoncé met the singer at the Spotted Pig restaurant in New York. After seeing Winehouse in such bad condition, he recalled telling her to stay with them. He also admitted he was disturbed by the lyrics of her hit song Rehab, even though he would later lend his vocals to the remix. On a separate occasion, Winehouse had finished performing at Joe's Pub in NYC, and Jay-Z later revealed he had been alarmed by the way she was stuttering, and even asked her about it. During the 2004 interview that was published following her death, Winehouse revealed she had trained at the prestigious Sylvia Young Theatre School in London as a child. The program had a positive effect on her life. She proudly stated, "People think stage school is a little star factory, but the truth is kids like me learned about being in a team situation and going out to work earlier than a lot of kids did. I don't know anyone from drama school who's now sitting on their arse doing nothing." She also admitted the school taught her how to discipline herself in singing, dance, and acting. But when it came to developing her vocal skills, Sylvia Young couldn't take all the credit. Winehouse said, "I could sing, but I didn't become a great singer. I probably didn't become any good until I was about 15 and I left Sylvia Young." Winehouse's rocky on-again, off-again relationship with Blake Fielder Civil made for perfect tabloid fodder. In an interview with Bazaar, Winehouse admitted she would get physical with Fielder Civil when she was drinking. She said, "If he says one thing I don't like, then I'll chin him." Proof of their physical altercations came to light when photos of Winehouse and Fielder Civil covered in scratches and blood were published by the Daily Mail in August 2007. Fielder Civil will become her husband but filed for divorce in January 2009. She may have thought he was her true love, but her original crushes just so happened to be popular characters Snoopy and Bart Simpson, as well as the king of pop, Michael Jackson. In her previously unpublished interview, she said, "I wanted to be Snoopy's girlfriend, and when I got older, I wanted to be Bart Simpson's girlfriend. Then I couldn't decide whether I wanted to marry Snoopy or Michael Jackson, because he was God to me, or to just be them." While she gave singer Pink a thumbs up for always speaking her mind, she wasn't so complimentary to other artists in the music industry. In HuffPost's previously unpublished interview, journalist John Mars asked the singer what she thought of American contemporaries. That's when Winehouse unleashed her unfiltered opinion, saying, "Christina Aguilera has her own style too, so good on her. I don't think anyone's ever told her to put on some leather chaps and get her noonie out. She's an amazing singer, but a lot of her music I can't even hear. It's the same with Britney Spears' music." If her drug rehab and her subsequent treatments had been successful, perhaps Winehouse would have been a mother today. In her previously unreleased interview, she told journalist John Mars she definitely envisioned herself, quote, settling down, getting married, and having kids. She was a bit iffy on just how good of a mom she would be when she stated, "I think I'd be a good mom. Well, I hope so. I hope I won't be a mom." As for how many kids she wanted exactly, Winehouse said she wanted, quote, Loads of them, at least 5. She planned to juggle motherhood and her music career by having a studio in her house, saying, "I'll be recording downstairs in my basement and the kids come down looking for their mummy. Then they'll pretend to sing into the microphone and it'll be cute." After her death, her father made the shocking admission to Weekend Sunrise that Winehouse and her then fiancé Reg Travis had been expecting a baby at some point during their relationship, saying, "They were going to get married. I shouldn't tell you this, but she thought she was pregnant at some stage." Her father refused to give further details as to when the alleged pregnancy occurred. Winehouse's life and career have been honored in multiple documentaries following her death, including the 2018 film Amy Winehouse, Back to Black. In the documentary, we were able to learn even more about the Tears Dry on Their Own singer's creative process during the time she recorded her sophomore album, Back to Black. According to the late singer's collaborator, Mark Ronson, Winehouse was a quick and efficient musician. Ronson admitted, "It was probably the quickest I've worked on any record. We did about 5 songs in 4 days."
That first day she wrote Back to Black, all the lyrics and the melody in 2 or 3 hours.
It's almost hard to believe some of her songs were penned so quickly, considering they're some of the most iconic tracks the music world has been blessed with.
Whitney Houston had a squeaky clean image for the first half of her career, but in the later years of her life, her troubles became more apparent. While many of her demons have been well documented, the details that have come out since the late singer's passing paint an even darker picture. Here are some of the sad things we've learned about Whitney Houston after her death. Insiders claim Houston was a drug user long before she met Bobby Brown, and that her handlers and record label deliberately peddled the narrative that he corrupted the so-called good girl and got her involved in dangerous habits. The director of the 2017 documentary Whitney, Can I Be Me?, called that a fairy tale, telling the New York Post, "The idea that Whitney was a great girl until Bobby came along is simply not true. Whitney took drugs and smoked weed a long time before she could even spell Bobby Brown." Houston's longtime stylist Ellen LeVar says in the documentary, "Whitney and her 2 brothers did drugs. It was the thing you do. You go out, you party, you drink, you do a little drugs. Everybody did it. And her brothers gave it to her. It was just something you do to have fun." Houston's older brother, Michael Houston, confessed to Oprah Winfrey that he introduced the singer to cocaine, not knowing the damage it could do. He admitted it's a demon he's forced to live with every day.
In the entertainment industry, it was just like available, and it wasn't like a bad word like it is now. You know what I'm saying? We didn't know.
Sources told people that Houston struggled with the pressures of fame and been forced into a role that didn't feel genuine. An insider close to the singer's family said, "There were a lot of expectations in terms of who she was and who people thought she was. I think that not being able to be herself 100% was a hell of a burden for her to have to carry. Someone may look good on the outside, sturdy and strong, but on the inside you have someone who has insecurities and family issues and emotional personal issues and struggles." The insider added that once Houston signed with legendary producer Clive Davis, she had to do what he said, wear what he said to, sing whatever he wanted her to sing, and act like a goody two-shoes when she was really a down and dirty girl from Jersey. Whitney definitely resented that. A music industry source noted, Clive made her into a mainstream pop star and allowed all of her wildest dreams to come true. But being this massive pop star came at a price. She had to act a certain way in front of the cameras for the label. That wasn't the real Whitney. A family friend told people that Houston used drugs as a form of rebellion against her clean-cut image and the people who tried to control it, saying drugs became her rebellion against it all. There has to be some outlet. For her, it became drugs. A music industry insider concurred that Houston, quote, did drugs to escape her pain. Her drug use eventually transitioned from recreational dabbling to addiction. A family source told the magazine, things got worse and worse. Suddenly when she was using, she had no idea who she was or who you were and became angry and lashed out. We'd take turns checking on her in Atlanta when things were bad. The insider claimed that enablers let Whitney do whatever she wanted to do for fear of getting fired. According to the 2016 book Whitney and Bobby Christina, The Deadly Price of Fame, Houston was targeted by a Chicago lawyer who tried to extort her back in 1992. On the eve of the Bodyguard film debut, the attorney alleged demanded $250,000 from the songbird or he'd go public with the intimate details about her love life. Whitney's father reportedly settled it immediately, though it wasn't confirmed how much money was paid. What kind of dirt was the lawyer threatening to dish? It could have been something to do with the rumors about Whitney being in a romantic relationship with her longtime assistant and close friend Robin Crawford. Whitney and her mother Cissy Houston both denied the claims, but even Bobby Brown alleged in his book Every Little Step that Whitney was attracted to men and women. In Whitney, Can I Be Me?, Whitney's former bodyguard David Roberts says, Bobby Brown and Robin Crawford were like fire and ice. They hated each other, they'd battle for her affections.
He wanted Whitney to remove Robin from their relationship, and Whitney didn't want to do it.
Ellen LeVar also says in the film, I think she was bisexual. Robin proved a safe place for her. One of Houston's former bodyguards, Kevin Ammons, claimed her father didn't approve of her alleged relationship with Robin Crawford. According to Whitney and Bobby Christina, The Deadly Price of Fame, John Huston offered Ammons $6,000 to, quote, put the fear of God in Robin. Ammons said he refused, and John then allegedly warned the bodyguards to keep a close watch on her. Whitney's mother, Sissy, told Oprah Winfrey she would absolutely be unhappy if Whitney had been in a relationship with a woman.
It would have bothered you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You would not have liked that?
Not at all.
Sissy added that she didn't really like Robin, calling her sometimes disrespectful, but recognized that the two were very close friends. In 1999, Robin reportedly left the singer's inner circle for good. In Whitney, Can I Be Me?, LeVar called Robin's exit the beginning of Whitney's downfall. Brown also claimed that the family's scorn and Crawford's departure crushed Whitney, telling Us Weekly, I really feel that if Robin was accepted into Whitney's life, Whitney still would be alive today. She didn't have close friends with her anymore. Though in subsequent interviews, Brown has adamantly denied ever striking Houston, he admitted in his book that he did at one time hit her because she was allegedly doing drugs while he was trying to get clean. He wrote, I did strike Whitney. Me at the time trying to maintain a sobriety, and the person that's in your relationship is not going along with it, it was rough. The former New Edition singer also accuses Whitney in his book of having more than one affair during their relationship, and he uses those allegations to justify his own infidelity. He explained, in fact, she cheated before I did. She slept with quite a few of the producers and artists that she worked with or associated with over the years. I won't drop any names here because they are still around, and a few view me as a friend. When I found out about the first one, I was blown away. I thought, okay, you're gonna play me like that? I'm not that type of dude, but if you can do it, I can do it too. Houston and Brown were on relatively equal footing in their careers when they met in 1989 at the Soul Train Awards, but she eclipsed him in an epic manner with the success of 1992's The Bodyguard and its smash song, I Will Always Love You. Her longtime real-life bodyguard David Roberts believes Brown resented her for it, leading to the demise of their marriage. Roberts told The Guardian, Brown was just not good at looking after her. He was always either in conflict or creating conflict. He lost his own identity, which I suspect he resented deeply, especially as his own talents were inferior to Miss Houston's. Roberts claimed Brown was physically and verbally abusive to Whitney. No matter how much he tried to placate his fragile ego, he added, Brown was jealous of her success, so he rubbed her face in his cheating. But she forgave him every possible indiscretion. I just couldn't understand it, and it ate away at her. Roberts said he believes Whitney would still be alive today if she hadn't gotten involved with Brown. He said of the My Prerogative singer, unfortunately, Mr. Brown has a lot of inadequacies he has to come to terms with, and I'm not sure he has, even to this day. Brown previously confessed that Houston's struggle with drug abuse was severe, but sources claim in the documentary Whitney that it was even worse than previously reported. Houston's brother Michael, who worked as her tour manager, claimed they frequently used drugs together. In the film, LeVar and Roberts claim they were terrified for her life. LeVar says that she begged Houston to get clean for years. And Roberts said that he alerted Houston's team to her rampant drug use in 1999 after allegedly witnessing her overdose on her My Love Is Your Love tour. Instead of getting help for Houston, Roberts claims the team fired him. Houston reportedly tried to get help for her drug addiction but couldn't stay clean. Her former drug counselor claims in the film that the singer just wanted to be a normal, sober mother to find her daughter and didn't care about having expensive things. Despite Houston's well-documented drug abuse and autopsy results showing drugs in her system, Brown still insisted drugs were not to blame for her tragic death. He told Rolling Stone in February 2018 that she died from, quote, just being broken-hearted. Though the coroner's report cited cocaine, Benadryl, Xanax, and marijuana, Brown said she was really working hard on herself to try and be a sober person, and she was a great woman. Brown wouldn't elaborate on what he believed contributed to Houston's allegedly broken heart or why he refused to believe she was still using drugs at the time of her passing. Whitney director Kevin McDonald told Deadline, "I think Bobby just isn't really ready to be honest. There's the perfect example of somebody who is, I think, feeling just very guilty. It feels like there's a lot of guilt and a kind of posturing and a self-protectiveness that's still going on there. And he felt, to me, just unwilling or unable to really be honest about himself, let alone to be honest about Whitney." In November 2019, Robin Crawford released her memoir, A Song for You, My Life with Whitney Houston, in which she detailed their relationship for the first time. Crawford wrote that they first met when they both worked as counselors at a summer camp when Crawford was 19 and Houston was about to turn 17. Crawford said their relationship was a physical and romantic one, but not for long. Houston ended their sexual relationship by gifting Crawford a Bible and explaining that being romantic would, quote, make their journey even more difficult. Crawford also said that Houston's mother disapproved of their relationship and said it was unnatural for women to be as close as Crawford and Whitney were. Crawford wrote, "We never talked about labels like lesbian or gay, we just lived our lives and I hoped it could go on that way forever." The pair remained close until Whitney's tragic drowning death at 48 years old in 2012. Crawford says of their enduring bond, "Whitney knows I loved her and I know she loved me. We really meant everything to each other. We vowed to stand by each other." Crawford alleged in her book that before Houston walked down the aisle with Brown, the How Will I Know singer was in hot pursuit of none other than Eddie Murphy. Murphy couldn't be tied down though, even for just one date. Crawford wrote, "One day when Eddie was supposed to come for dinner, I caught a glimpse of Whitney. She was wearing a black dress and low-heeled slingbacks. For a moment, I thought, boy, I wish she was doing that for me." But Murphy didn't show up for the date, leaving Houston heartbroken. Crawford says Houston lost herself trying to land the Coming to America actor and comedian. It wasn't until the day Houston was set to marry Brown that Murphy came around, with Crawford claiming Murphy called Houston to tell her she was making a mistake. She didn't listen.
She said, "Eddie, he must be out of his mind. Matter of fact, he is out of his mind."
Murphy had already had his chance, and by then she'd moved on and was head over heels for Brown. If you or someone you know is struggling with addiction, please call the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Administration's 24/7 national helpline at 1-800-662-HELP. That's 1-800-662-4357.
Multi-million-dollar fortune to a devout faith. This beloved TV personality took a few secrets to the grave, but after 60 years on air, Regis Philbin earned his place in the Heavenly Hall of Fame. On July 24, 2020, TV legend Regis Philbin died at the age of 88. His family shared in a statement, "We are deeply saddened to share that our beloved Regis Philbin passed away last night of natural causes, 1 month shy of his 89th birthday." A week later, a medical examiner revealed that Philbin's death was caused by a heart attack due to a series of cardiac-related ailments in the years prior. In 2018, Philbin revealed to AM New York that he was taking medication to prevent heart disease, working out regularly, and eating in moderation.
"I still have dreams about this burger. Beautiful, haunting dreams."
He said, "If I knew what I know today, I probably wouldn't have eaten as many cheeseburgers and oatmeal raisin cookies and would have considered exercise as a daily part of my routine, not just an obligation that I felt forced to do." Love it or hate it, you can give Philbin a little credit for Donald Trump's victorious run for the White House in 2016. After Philbin died, Trump praised the TV personality as one of the all-time greats, then dropped an interesting nugget, tweeting, "He kept asking me to run for president."
Regis doesn't really understand how important he is, and there's something very beautiful about that.
Philbin first met Trump while hosting New York's morning show in 1983, a couple of years before it morphed into the more familiar Live. Philbin recalled the first of several Trump appearances on the show, telling Newsday, "I thought it was going to be 3.5 minutes. It ended up being 45 minutes. We just became friends, and we've been seeing each other ever since. I think he's a great guy."
I got to know this guy. He became a friend of mine. We went to Yankee Stadium. We went to Florida. It was great.
It wasn't long before the two were seen together at charity events, even recording A Christmas Carol in 2005. Philbin seldom made comments about Trump in public, except for one impromptu interview in 2017, shortly after the inauguration. He told TMZ, "So far, he's done quite well. He's getting things done that were never done before. Anyway, who knows? But that's the way it is right now. We'll see. I'll give him a little more time.
He's fun to work with every day, isn't he? He's all right.
The best!
Of all the people Philbin worked with throughout his 6-decade showbiz career, Kathie Lee Gifford topped the list. The tandem began in 1985 when Kathie Lee left her Good Morning America perch to be a replacement on the local morning program. Once the show transitioned to national syndication 3 years later as Live with Regis and Kathie Lee, the two became a must-watch combination, and their chemistry never wavered until Kathie Lee left the show in 2000. She told Tamron Hall in 2022.
We were each other's best audience. And I just miss him every day. I loved that man dearly.
Even after they parted ways professionally, Kathie Lee said they stayed close, with Philbin and his wife Joy traveling to visit her in Tennessee every summer. While she spent 15 years as his co-host, she told Today,
It's been 20 years since I left the show. Wow. And we became dear friends through the years since then, just always getting together every chance we could.
Kathie Lee told People that Philbin was a huge pillar of support. He even spoke out in defense of her integrity in 1997, in the wake of an affair scandal involving her late husband, Frank Gifford. She said, "I always knew Regis had my back. He always protected me on the air."
Here are Regis, Philbin, and Kelly Ripa.
While Philbin enjoyed an effortless on-air chemistry with Kathie Lee for 15 years, the same couldn't be said about her successor, Kelly Ripa, who joined the show in 2001. Looking back, Ripa told People in 2022 that she didn't want to come across as disrespectful, adding,
But also I want people to understand that it was not a duck walk.
Ripa also recalled being chastised by Philbin for showing up on her first day with her hair and makeup team, admitting, "I felt horrible. He was probably trying to be funny, but at the same time, it felt like a pile-on." In her book Livewire, Long-Winded Short Stories, Ripa said her experience with Philbin was the toughest part to write. She frequently felt miserable during her 10 years on Live with Regis and Kelly. While Ripa claimed she had a professional and polite relationship with Philbin, there was reportedly a boys' club happening behind the scenes. She said, "I want people to understand that joining Live, from my perspective, was a terrifying venture. It was entering into a work environment that I did not understand. I think had I gone in there now, I would have been fully equipped to handle it, but back then, I was not equipped in any sense of the word."
It's the closest experience you will ever have to being in heaven.
Philbin was buried at Cedar Grove Cemetery, right by his beloved Notre Dame University. The 1953 sociology grad was so taken by his alma mater that he regularly donated to the university, including $2.5 million to a performing arts theater that now bears his name, he said at a university event.
Every chance I got, I used to tell people about Notre Dame, how special it was, how different it was, how great it was.
A devoted Notre Dame football fan, Philbin didn't appreciate how the New York Times early Sunday edition hit the presses before his team's games were typically over, basically preventing proper Fighting Irish coverage. After the TV star regularly brought up the situation on his show, the paper got creative. As Times editor Tom Jolly recalled via Twitter, the Times created an evening postscript, sending updated versions of the sports pages to the press room at 6 p.m. in order to get Notre Dame game stories into the papers that went to Connecticut. We called it the Regis edition, and we never heard another word of complaint. Whether he became famous or not, Regis Francis Xavier Philbin probably felt pressure to live up to his full name. He was christened Regis after the high school his father attended, and his middle names honored a 16th century missionary. Still, Philbin seldom made a big deal about his adherence to Catholicism in public, but he once told Fox News in 2014, "I think it's helped me a great deal. I think every person's religion has a factor in their lives." After he died in 2020, a number of faith-based news outlets highlighted just how much he gave to Catholic organizations. Besides a lucrative donation to Notre Dame for a theater venue, Philbin also helped a Kentucky parish pay off its debt. He also regularly contributed funds to his old Cardinal Hayes High School in the Bronx, including $500,000 to renovate its auditorium. He was involved in fundraisers and even gave his high school the money he won from various TV game shows. Helping others to provide spiritual guidance may have been his way to honor how he overcame his own past hardships. As he told the St. Anthony Messenger, "You've just got to do a little prayer and hope for the best. I think your religion strengthens you in that regard." Like many New Yorkers, Philbin isolated under the lockdown in 2020, and according to Kathie Lee Gifford, it was a difficult time for the personable TV host. She claimed he had been feeling down, explaining on The Talk,
Regis couldn't perform anymore, and nobody was out and about. He couldn't be Regis for people, you know? And it broke his heart.
In July 2020, just a few days after Regis died, Gifford opened up on Today about just how much her longtime co-star struggled during the final months of his life. She said,
So many of his friends had died. His dearest friend had died a week before, of corona actually. He was, ready to go.
A few weeks before Philbin's passing, Gifford had lunch with her former co-host and his wife Joy at their Connecticut home. After hearing the news about Philbin's death, she called Joy, who told her that get-together was the last time he ever laughed. Gifford shared,
That will forever be a precious gift the Lord gave me, that I got to laugh again with one of my best friends in all my lifetime.
After Philbin retired, he appeared on CNBC's Fast Money, apparently seeking some investment advice. As he explained to Greenlight Capital president David Einhorn at the time,
"I'm not working these days. What do you got for me?"
But Philbin surely didn't need to be concerned about his finances. When he died, he left behind an estate worth $150 million, much of it including stocks and bonds, according to Radar. And per his last will and testament that he signed in 2015, Regis owned roughly $16.5 million in property, including their $2.5 million Beverly Hills condo, with lots more in cash. Much of that revenue came from his extensive showbiz career that spanned more than 60 years. Other sources included cash from sales of their approximately $4.6 million Connecticut mansion and another abode that went for a cool $3 million in 2012. As far as who would be entitled to Regis's fortune, the TV legend was pretty clear that his wife Joy and their two daughters Joanne and Jennifer would get the lion's share. The 17-page document also included Regis's daughter Amy from his first marriage as a beneficiary of a revocable trust, while mentioning it had no issue with Amy's late brother Daniel applying for some of the estate. The documents also included a trust listing items not mentioned in the will, and a living trust citing distribution of his estate to family and friends.
Thank you very much for these great years together. God bless you all, and I hope I see you again real soon. Thanks, everybody.
Serious struggles with self-doubt, apprehension about a celebrity lifestyle, the role of a lifetime which came with its own set of truly difficult hurdles. We've learned a lot about Heath Ledger since his untimely death. Here's a few more things we've discovered. In both charisma and talent, Heath Ledger's star power was the equivalent of a Category 5 force of nature on screen, but you wouldn't know it from his reportedly overwhelming sense of self-doubt. In the documentary I Am Heath Ledger, the actor's agent, Steve Alexander, described how the actor was encumbered by insecurity on the set of period war drama The Patriot. He thought he'd bombed the screen test, to the point that he stopped reading midway through to say, "Sorry, I'm wasting your time." The actor also struggled with his confidence on set. His insecurity was so intense that he almost backed out of every movie he starred in, according to his agent. It's a depiction that was echoed by others, too. Speaking to Yahoo Entertainment, The Patriot director Roland Emmerich described the actor as being super nervous on set, mostly on account of starring opposite his acting hero, Mel Gibson. Meanwhile, 10 Things I Hate About You director Gil Younger told the New York Times that Ledger worried he screwed up his incredibly short audition. Ironically, the reading was only as short as it was because Younger was sold on Ledger's sense of energy and sexuality from the beginning.
Well, maybe you're not afraid of me, but I'm sure you've thought about me naked, huh?
For many fans of the star, Heath Ledger's performance in 10 Things I Hate About You may have been their first irrepressible introduction to the reluctant heartthrob. Apparently, he made quite an impact on the cast of the classic teen film, too. Writing for Vulture, co-star David Krumholtz remembered the close-knit cast being apprehensive about the addition of Ledger. Instead, they found another close friend, he wrote, adding, "The group with Heath only got stronger." In all respects, the actor sounded like he contributed a great deal more to the movie than just an iconic performance as misunderstood bad boy Patrick Verona.
Secondly, don't let anyone ever make you feel like you don't deserve what you want.
Speaking to the New York Times, director Gil Younger recalled that Ledger was the one who suggested his character sing Frankie Valli's "Can't Take My Eyes Off You" to woo Julia Stiles' Cat Stratford with, rather than the originally scripted song "I Touch Myself" by the Divinals. What's more, on the People in the 90s podcast, Stiles remembered that Ledger stood back during her iconic poem scene by refusing to overshadow her performance by getting emotional during his reaction shot. She recalled, "But he was confident enough to be like, 'I'm handing over the stage to you.' And I learned way later in life that doesn't always happen."
But mostly I hate the way I don't hate you. Not even close. Not even a little bit. Not even at all.
In order to sell the quirky medieval rom-com A Knight's Tale, the powers that be seemed well aware of their most lucrative asset, the roguish good looks of Heath Ledger.
I would hear you speak if it cost me my ears.
The film's campaign centered around the actor, and it was apparently the first time he felt extreme discomfort about his rising fame. In I Am Heath Ledger, Steve Alexander explained how the actor would fidget during interviews and would ask to be excused to cope. Speaking to Vanity Fair, Alexander elaborated that Ledger was afraid of becoming a celebrity whose fame would overshadow his talent and limit his options. Instead, he wanted to keep his personal life to himself and to excel at his craft. Alexander explained, adding, "He was striving to become an illusionist, someone able to create characters that weren't there." On top of being an accomplished actor, Heath Ledger was apparently keeping another couple of talents in his back pocket. Screenwriter Alan Scott told Independent that he and the actor were developing a film adaptation of Walter Tevis' chess prodigy novel, The Queen's Gambit, before his death. The movie was to be the actor's feature-length directorial debut, with Scott assuring the newspaper, "I think he would have been an extraordinary director." But there was one other talent Ledger was apparently nurturing. According to the outlet, he was a high-ranking chess player who was within reach of becoming a grandmaster. Although he once told MTV that he played at least one game of chess every day, the extent of his skill set for the intellectual game wasn't exactly common knowledge until after he died, at least not to the public. As his ex-girlfriend Naomi Watts told Interview, he was a huge, obsessive chess freak and very, very good at it. Following his death, it was touchingly revealed that Ledger was also no stranger to Washington Square Park's legendary chess world in New York, where a couple of the board regulars spoke fondly of him. 63-year-old Earl Biggs, who watched Ledger play, recalled to People that the actor seemed nice and would often lose. Regardless, Biggs explained, "He just had fun. He loved it." Heath Ledger's maniacal performance as the Joker in director Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight remains his most iconic and beloved role, with the performance receiving a posthumous Oscar win in 2009.
It's not about money, it's about sending a message.
Released 6 months after his death, however, the majority of the actor's keen inspirations for and details about his performance were accomplished without Ledger being able to share them directly with the world. In I Am Heath Ledger, the actor's voice coach and friend, Jerry Grinnell, shared that one of the character's signature tics, wherein the Joker punctuates gestures and statements with a keen lick of his lips, was one born of practicality. Because the prosthetics required for his scarred cheeks would detach as he spoke, the actor would repeatedly lick his lips to quickly reseal the special effect, giving the clown prince of crime his jarring mannerisms. It was a decision which made sense, given Ledger's naturalistic approach to the character. According to Nolan, the actor was heavily involved in guiding the aesthetic of the character, including applying his makeup.
As an actor, you're saying, okay, this character would put his own makeup on, in real life, and so what would that look like?
The result was a wonderfully crude take on Gotham's cruelest criminal, a man whose mask of proud anarchism was smeared onto his own face by Ledger's hand.
Let's put a smile on that face.
In the tabloid furor following Heath Ledger's death, outlets like Metro and the Sydney Morning Herald ran stories suggesting that the dedicated actor had sunk too deeply into his dark performance as the Joker, and that it had killed him. As his family and co-stars argued, however, that couldn't be farther from the truth. Ledger's The Dark Knight co-star Christian Bale told Today that he found such reports rude and suggested that though the actor immersed himself in his role, it didn't harm him in some way. Bale said, "He was having a wonderful time making this movie. I say he couldn't have been happier."
Why so serious?
While speaking at a panel event for I Am Heath Ledger, the actor's sisters, Kate Ledger and Ashley Bell, similarly suggested that the star was having the time of his life depicting the Joker. So, when stories came out portraying Heath as being depressed because of the role, they were shocked. Kate said, "Honestly, it was the absolute opposite. He was having fun. He wasn't depressed about the Joker." Speaking to news.com.au, Kate further dismissed allegations that her brother had a darkness to him and explained, "He was a really happy person and he had huge plans for his future. I know he had plans for another Batman." 4 months prior to his death, Heath Ledger and Michelle Williams split amid speculation from an unnamed source that their relationship had been, quote, rocky for a while, according to People. Though the breakup was described as amicable by the outlet, details emerged following the star's death potentially suggesting otherwise. People reported that a rift was caused between the two due to Ledger being drawn into a party scene. It was reportedly a lifestyle from which Williams wanted to protect their daughter Matilda. People's senior editor J.D. Heyman claimed to Access Hollywood that Ledger used drugs, something which he said was not compatible with parenting in Williams' view. Director Terry Gilliam told Vanity Fair that the breakup was hard on Ledger, but the worst part was the custody dispute regarding his daughter. Still, could a reconciliation have been possible? In her memoir, This Will Only Hurt a Little, Busy Phillips, godmother to Matilda and Williams' best friend, wrote that she always thought they might figure things out. Tragically, we'll never know. Reflecting on the final weeks of Heath Ledger's life, the actor's friend and dialect coach Jerry Grinnell recalled to People that he was deeply sad after his split from Williams. The voice coach had spent some time living with Ledger in his apartment prior to his death, and told the outlet that the actor seemed exhausted. Unable to sleep, Ledger would apparently wander around his apartment. Grinnell's account is seemingly backed up by an interview Ledger gave to the New York Times 2 months before his death, wherein he confessed to having slept about 2 hours a night because he couldn't get his mind to quiet down. According to Williams, Ledger's restless brain wasn't anything new, however. She told Interview, "For as long as I've known him, he'd had bouts with insomnia. He just had too much energy. His mind was turning, always turning." During the filming of The Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus, director Terry Gilliam likewise recalled to Vanity Fair that Ledger would arrive for work exhausted because he hadn't slept. But through his performance, he was able to resurrect himself and would be glowing by the end of the day. Gilliam explained, "It was like everything was put into the work because that was the joy. That's what he loved to do."
I don't know my name. I don't know how I got here.
Almost immediately after Heath Ledger's death was reported, tabloids began circulating stories which alleged that the actor may have had a history of misusing drugs and alcohol. In one particularly damning piece published by the Daily Mail, a woman named Rebecca White, described as being a close friend, alleged the actor was a partier whose use of cocaine and heroin had destroyed his relationship with Michelle Williams. The same day the Daily Mail piece was published, footage appearing to show Ledger supposedly snorting what looked like cocaine at an after-party for the 2006 SAG Awards began circulating, according to Boston.com. In the video, the star reportedly talked about how he used to often smoke weed and how he was going to, quote, get so much from Williams for using drugs. While the tabloids picked at the bones of such an unpleasant spectacle, another image of Ledger emerged, a man trying to make life changes and succeeding. Cinematographer Nicola Pecorini told Vanity Fair that Ledger stopped using drugs the second that discussions about custody over his daughter were brought up. He told the outlet he was so clean that he didn't drink a glass of wine anymore. Meanwhile, David Krumholtz told the New York Times that he'd reconnected with the star prior to his death and saw a changed man, explaining, "I know for a fact he was in recovery prior to his death. He was trying to get healthy." The tabloid scrutiny surrounding Heath Ledger's death pivoted around the way he died, an accidental overdose of prescription drugs, and an underlying mystery as to where and how he procured all of them. According to ABC News, however, the medications which killed the actor, a combination of painkillers, anti-anxiety medication, and sleeping pills, were all found to have been prescribed lawfully, though they should never have been taken together. Speaking to the Daily Mail, his father, Kim Ledger, described the tragedy of his son's death as being Heath's own fault. He also told news.com.au that Heath's sister Kate Ledger had warned him not to mix medications he knew nothing about, saying, he said, Katie, I'll be fine." Well, that's a cavalier boy's answer. It just put his whole system to sleep, I guess. The late actor's father noted in a statement that he hoped his son's death would serve a cautionary warning about the hidden dangers of combining prescription medications, even at low dosages. If you or anyone you know is struggling with addiction issues, help is available. Visit the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration website or contact SAMHSA's National Helpline at 1-800-662-HELP 4357.